talked about wrestling and things like that in the Divas division that WWE never really cared. Now, you do know some people will take issue with that because they will bring up names like...
Let's crush their childhood.
Because they will bring up names like Trish Stratus and Lita and talk about how they were featured prominently in WWE and how they main evented episodes of Raw and how they had a lot of... Well...
Episode.
You can't fathom something like that happening today, though. And could you elaborate on your thoughts on people comparing the Divas division of today to past Divas divisions?
Yeah, the fact that I went on that Twitter hashtag and, like, first of all, when I go on there and I see pictures of Tori and, like, Stacy Keibler, and I'm just like, like, if you're citing the SmackDown Divas division from 2002, as I refer to them as, the Bikini Contest girls, you're missing the point. This is just wanted to fill you in.
Tori Wilson and Stacy Keibler, two of the most beautiful ladies in WWE history.
Talentless.
Hell, they would fit right in today. When it came to them in the ring, they sucked. But it's just they had other things going in their favor. That the
show was TV-14.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, when people want to talk about PG, TV-14, and how the product suffered, the only segment of the show that has suffered substantially because of the changing from TV-14 to PG is the Divas division. Because people had things to fall back on back then, and they could watch and they could love it because you had bikini contests and you had mud wrestling and you had
panties matches.
Yeah, bra and panties and stuff like that. Like, people kind of look back at the past with rose-colored glasses. Like, they look back and say, "Oh, the Divas division was so awesome." But when you're talking about it being awesome, like, are you specifically talking about the wrestling, or is it the fact that they actually provided characters for you to like, which made you care about the matches?
And then the other thing too is when you talk about Trish and Lita, I've always said that Trish, the Divas division that you claim to love, was built off of the backs of two people who gained popularity in spite of the Divas division. You know, how many angles did Trish and Lita do that had nothing to do with the Divas division? You know,
I can think of somebody today where that could apply as well.
Yes, and it's funny because that same person happened to get Matt over in 2012 when she was nowhere near the Divas division. She was involved with kissing half the male roster in the main event programs. But that's the disconnect, is that so many people look at the popularity of Trish and Lita and they fall back right to the Divas division, where, you know, I went back and I looked. I went through every year to year to year, and these pay-per-view matches for the title, they're all 4 minutes. Trish and Lita went 30 seconds or so on a Survivor Series show that ended in a DQ. You know, there was no difference. The way the wrestling and the programs like that were booked, there was no difference. And I can almost guarantee that if you went to Vince or the WWE creative team or things like that and you said, you know, we want Trish and Lita's Divas division, the first thing they will tell you is, we don't have Trish and Lita. And the reason why they would say that is because you look at Trish and Lita and you say those were not people who were products of their division and the women's wrestling. They were products of Team Extreme, you know, Trish's angle at X7 with Vince, you know, all that kind of stuff really heightened their popularity. So when they entered the Divas division, they were over and it gave people that idealized view. The fact is they've never committed to Divas wrestling, and if you're asking for them to return to what they once were, then I think you're kind of missing the point. You're not necessarily aware of what you're asking for, and the fact is they're not too built on sex appeal anymore. You can't do that to get some of them over, and the fact is they don't have the characters that were Trish and Lita. Now, they could do that. You know, they could make girls like that and then, you know, subsequently reboot the division around them after they've done it. That could be an option. But don't sit here and ever tell me that WWE has ever in their history had a committed, you know, been committed and totally focused on promoting women's wrestling. Because there's no chance, no shot.
So what do we do now then? Because you say people don't know what they're asking for when they ask for stuff like that, but hell, look at AJ. She's popular despite the fact that she, like, I ask people, point to a good match from AJ, and the most named match was her match with Caitlyn, and no.
I refuse. I won't allow it.
But yeah, they fell for it there.
But that's the same thing too. You can say the same thing with Trish and Lita. You know, outside of the match that main evented Raw and Trish's retirement, you know, how many Divas matches can you offhand name? And that's kind of my point, that, you know, they did a great job developing the personas of Trish and Lita and developing those two individual characters, but don't act like that somehow built a great Divas division. It's not true. It's a lie is what it is. And maybe that's all it takes. Maybe all it takes is for two women to get to the point where they are at a very heightened level of popularity, and you can trick people into thinking you're doing something that you're not. And maybe it's that simple. But for me, in the PG world that we've already stated affects, you know, totally transforms the way they would get Divas over. Because you can go ahead and watch the Monday Night War. So, you know, anytime they mention the Divas, it's always like, oh, you know, we came out, we sent Sable out there in a bikini, and that's how we, you know, did our business. And that's the way things worked. And now that you can't do that, they're kind of twisted.
Once again, Sable, beautiful. But, no.